Hey guys, this is Eve with Scrapbooking with me, and as promised, we're going to make this little teapot. I think is adorable. And excuse me, the lady's name that originally did this, I think her name is Linda Parker. She's the one that I got the measurements and everything from, and she is more than happy for everybody to do one and share it. She doesn't mind at all. Okay, so first thing we're going to start off with, this is going to be kind of a lengthy video, so I'm probably going to split it in two, but part one and part two, because the lid is a little bit complex and it takes just a little while to do it. So I'll probably do the lid in a part two. But first we're going to start off with a piece of cardstock that is 10 3/4 by 7. So 10 3/4 by 7 inches. Okay, on the long side you're going to score at 1 3/4, 3 1/2, 5 1/4, 7, 8 3/4, and 10 1/2. Okay, then you're going to flip it around to the short side and you're going to score at 1 1/4 and 4 1/2. So that is all the scoring you're going to do on that piece. And I will have all these measurements on my blog just as soon as I can get them up. Now what you're going to do is just burnish all your score lines. Okay, now we've got everything burnished, so what we're going to do is we're going to cut away some of this little portion right here. The part where you just have that little, like, 1/8 of an inch. We're going to cut some of that away because we don't need it. So you're going to cut from the small score line. You see this end is scored like at 2 1/2 inches, and this is like at 1 1/4. So you're going to cut this away right here, and then you're just going to cut this kind of in at an angle, so just like that. Then you're going to go to the next score line right there. Oh, my scissors are stuck on my finger. Ouch. Okay, and you're going to cut kind of at an angle like that. And you're going to cut that one away. So this leaves you with a little bitty tab. Let's see if I can get it where you can see it. That looks something like that. Okay. Let's see if I can fix that one just a tiny bit. Right. So that is all you need to do to that end. And now what we're going to do is we're going to use our punch board, just like we did the teacup. This is made really, really, really similar to the teacup. So you're going to take the score line where the short end is, so this score line right here, and you're going to put it in your envelope punch board, and you're going to line up that score line with that little thing right there in the middle of that hole. There we go. I think I have it lined up. But just line that score line up with that little bitty ball in the center of that hole and punch. Now, after you punch your first one, you're going to need to fold it at that score line, put it back in there, line it up right on that score line, and punch. And these are going to be a little bit tougher because they're going through 2 layers of cardstock. Again, you're going to fold the next score line, put it in there, line it up, and punch. Okay, fold the next one, put it in there, line it up, and punch. The next one, put it in there, line it up, and punch. The next one, just keep folding them and putting them in there. Okay, and then you're going to punch right there on the end. Well, go in, please. There we go. Okay. Sometimes you may have to burnish those score lines a little bit more to get to go in. See this little lip that it left right there? We're just going to cut that off at an angle. We don't need that. So just trim it off. Make it look just like that. Okay. Alright, so we're finished with that for right now. Now what you're going to do is put some score tape on this little piece right here, because that's going to be what holds our teapot together. And I'm going to use 1/4. Probably need to use 1/8 if you have it. But I'm just going to use 1/4 and then fold it over. And then that goes on the outside, or the side that's going to be your outside. Then you're going to need to put some tape along here, just like we did on the teacup. This is the opposite side of your holes. Put tape up here, because this is going to be folded down like that. I'll tell you, before we do that, let's go ahead and take a little sliver off of each of these sides. That just helps it fold in better. So you see, all I did was I took this part right here and took a little bit of edge off of each side. That'll just help it fold better. Alright, so put your score tape at the top. Run some along the top. And then run some right along. That score line is right here. So we're going to run it right above that score line. Okay. And now we're just going to take the backing off of it. And you're going to fold that down. And remember, leave this end up, because we're going to need to put that together. We're going to need to put this little lip in there. So take the score tape off of that, bring it around, put that little lip in there, marry up your corners really, really well, and then just press it down. So I've already made a flub up, but it's not that bad. Before you glue this little part right here together, before you make it circular like that, go ahead and put your mats on, if you're going to put any mats on here. I am going to put some mats on like I did on this one, these little mats. Alright, these mats measure, let me see if I can find my measurements. These are 1.5 by 2 3/4, and you want to round the bottom, just the bottom part of them. And the reason you're doing this is because when you sit it down there, you want it to be rounded where those little holes are. So I can still put them on here, but it's a whole lot easier if you put them on before you put it together. For some reason my brain it's hard for my brain to get wrapped around this teapot for some reason. I don't know why. It's not that complex. It's just I keep thinking about the next step and I need to just think about the one I'm working on. Okay, and you need 6 of these panels. So 6 of these little panels, and then I'm just going to use my art glitter glue. And somebody asked me, was this glitter glue? This glue does not glitter. This is a clear drying glue. The company is called Art Glitter. So they originally made their glue to go with their glitters that they have. But it doesn't have glitter or anything in it. It dries perfectly clear. It's a very, very great glue. It dries fast. I love it. I just ordered another. I got in a shipment on Thursday, I think it was. I just ordered another big round. I want to make sure that we do not run out. Everyone who has used it loves it. So I've not had anyone yet that has used it that does not fall in love with it. So if you're thinking about getting it, and then this little fine tip is wonderful if you need to get under the edge of something. So see, you can put these on after the fact, but it's a lot easier before the fact. This is an older graphic 45 paper that I just had in my stash. And like I told you the other day, I'm trying to use up scraps and things that I've had in my stash for a while. And I thought it kind of matched this purple. This is a purpley. It's coming across as a blue on the screen. But my granddaughter loves purple. It's her favorite color. So I'm trying to do her a purple one. And then my other one loves pink. So I'm doing her a pink one. Little pink set. So all you need to do is just put these down with the rounded corner at the bottom, and then just kind of center it just like you would any other type mat. Just make sure that you press it down really well, because these are going to be on a beveled angle, so they're going to need to have some good glue behind them, and it's going to need to go right up to the edge. Now what you want to do is take your scissors and you're going to cut up on each one of those little score lines right there. So you're going to cut up on that score line right where your little punches are. And I just take out a little sliver just because to me it doesn't seem to cut up very well in that score line, or either I can't cut it up well. Alright, so now you have something that looks like this. So what you're going to do now is these, just like we did the little teacup, the bottoms you're going to need to marry up the opposite, go to the opposite sides and marry those bottoms up. Now, let me tell you something here. Linda had pulled hers together quite a bit and married hers up or glued them together, and it made her teapot a lot more rounded on the bottom. I didn't do that so much on mine because I kind of wanted mine squared off so that it would sit a lot leveler. It's up to you. If you want it rounded off, then you're going to need to pull these in, quite a bit until you don't see a hole in there. But if you don't want it so rounded off, then what I did was I just pulled mine to the very tip of the other one and glued them together like that. And I took, let's see, I took a piece of my paper. Grab a scrap of that paper. I took a piece of my paper and I took my little circle cutter. And what I did was I cut me out a circle, because I don't have a punch that's this big. And this is the old Creative Memories things. I used to actually work for them many years ago, so I have lots of their tools. I took a circle, and what I did was I kind of laid it on there and seen how I wanted all of my corners to come out, and then I glued the circle on there. But like I said, that's up to you. If you want it more rounded, then pull these in and glue them together, and it'll make this bottom more of a rounded bottom, beveled, rounded. If you want it more squared off like this one is, then, you know, just take you a piece like this and glue it on there. I think I'm going to do mine the same way because I like how it sits. And I know my grandbabies, they will, if it doesn't sit up right, they'll have it flipped over and tore all to pieces. So I'm just going to go around through here and put some score tape on some of these and press these down a little bit. And then I will put my circle on the top. Now, a lot of this video I will fast forward or cut out just so that it, hopefully it won't be quite so long. But if you have any questions at all at the end, please just email me or leave them in the comments. I try to answer as many as I can. I don't always get around to answering all of your comments, but if it's a question, I will definitely get back with you. And I appreciate all your comments, I really do. And I wish I could answer every single one of them, but time just doesn't permit. Not when I need to get orders out the door. But I really appreciate it, I do. I know it takes time out of your day for you to stop and leave comments for me, and I appreciate that so much. Alright, so that's what I did on the other one. I just kind of played around with it until I got the bottom like I wanted. Made sure that it was, you know, kind of, sort of. There you go. That's about how I want it right there. And then I took my little circle piece, and let's see. I'm going to make sure that all of my, you want to make sure that it's, I don't want to say round because this is not a round teapot, but you want to make sure that all your little pieces and parts are pulled up kind of together. So I laid that on there, and that glue will dry pretty quick. And then I just pressed all the little pieces in at the bottom, up under my circle, just so that they all kind of had about the same spacing. And then I flipped it over, and I took a bottle, and I put that bottle on it so that it would press it down. I'm going to let that sit there just a minute. I felt like that had dried. Then what I did is I cut another piece, and I'm going to put it in the bottom on this side because, as you see, I have a little bit of a mess going on down there, and I want to kind of finish the bottom of the inside off as well. So I just cut another circle, and I can tell you how big these circles are in case you have a punch, or you might have, you might do these on your Cricut. Oh, come on. There we go. Close to right. My hands are way too big to go down in there. I need my grandbabies over here to help me with this. Okay, there we go. And then again, I just set my bottle down in there. Alright, this circle is, let's see, I know it has the measurements on it somewhere if I can see them. This is a 2.5, I believe. 2.5 inch circle. Yes, this is a 2.5 inch circle, so that is what I'm cutting to go on the bottom and on the inside. So we have our little teapot bottom completed. Now we need to do the spout, this part right here. For the spout, you're going to need a piece that is 3 by 5 3/4. Uh-oh. I think I cut mine wrong, so we're going to cut it again. Y'all know I'm good at that. So 5 3/4. 5 3/4 right there. And 3 inches. Now let's try that one. Okay, that looks much better. Alright, on the short side, you're going to score it at 5/8 of an inch. So there's your half, it's the next mark. 5/8 of an inch. Now this is going to get just a little bit complicated right here. Not really, it's just a little bit time consuming. And if anybody can find an easier way to do this, please, just let me know. Alright, you're going to fold over that little portion that you just scored. And you're going to lay that with that little portion up here at the top, back in your score board. You're going to make notches on here. You're going to notch it at 1/2. You're going to notch it at 1 inch. You're going to notch it at 1.5, at 2, at 2.5, and then you're going to skip over to 3 1/4. You're going to go 3 3/4, 4 1/4, 4 3/4, 5 1/4. Alright, so let's do that again. You're going to notch, not score, just put a notch. That means, you know, just put a dent in your paper. 1/2, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5. Make sure I got 2.5 there, yeah. And then you're going to skip over to 3 1/4, 3 3/4, 4 1/4, 4 3/4, and 5 1/4. So there are, let's see if we can see them. There we go. You see the notches along there? And there's our flap folded under. Okay. Now you're going to turn it over, and so you're going to turn it around and notch it at 2 7/8. 2 7/8 right there. So what that is you're notching the center of this piece of paper, okay? Alright, so I've got my center notch here, and then I have my other notches down here. Okay, now you can do this in your scoreboard if you have a scoreboard that has the angles on it. I don't have one like that, so this is how I have to do it. So what we're going to do, we're going to put the one that has the 1 score mark at the top, and you're going to put your ruler on that score mark, on that little indentation that we made, and on the first score line. Let me kind of get down closer and see if that helps any at all. Maybe. Alright, so there's my first notch, and then here's my notch at the bottom. So I'm going to put my ruler on that notch, and then on the very first one down at the bottom, and I'm going to score just down to that line, just like that. Okay, Now I'm going to, this is where it gets just a little bit complicated. It's not bad, it just gets a little bit. Alright, you're going to move your ruler at the top over just about a 1/16 of an inch, not much at all, and then over to that next score line, and you're going to score down just like that. So see, I came over a little bit more than a 1/16, but you're just wanting to move it over a tiny bit. You're just barely moving, because this is going to be the end of your spout, so you don't want it very wide. So that's why we're just barely moving that. You're going to move it over a tiny bit more, and then go to your next score line. Move it over a tiny bit more, and go to the next score line. Make sure that I got that. Just like that. Move it over just a little bit more, and go to your next score line. So that, ooh, sorry about that. That's kind of what it's going to look like. You see, I made this one a little bit too wide right here. It'll all come out okay in the end, and I'm sorry, this thing is not wanting to focus when I've got it up close. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back just a little and score that one again. So that's what you're going to have. Let's see, there we go. Now you're going to do the other side the same way. So you're going to put your ruler right at that center point, which is right there, and then down at your first notch on the bottom, and you're just going to draw a line with your score tool. Then you're going to move it over just a tiny bit at the top, and then over to your next score line. And to me, it's easier to do it on this side because I can see what I'm doing. Okay, move it over just a tiny bit more at the top, and then over to that next notch right there. Move it over a tiny bit more, and over to the next notch right there. And then one more time. Okay. So as you can see, this side I did really a lot better on than I did this side. This side I've got a few that are a little bit wider. That will be okay because I did that on my other one, so I know it works. It's just the closer you can get this up here, the tighter the end of your little spigot's going to be. So, alright, now what you're going to do, and let me back out because if I don't, I will forget. What you're going to do now is on that last score line right here, you're just going to cut up on that score line. And I'm going to use my long scissors because it's just easier. So you're just going to cut up on that score line right there. Then you're going to do the same thing on the other side. Go that last score line and just cut up that. Then you're going to just take off these corners right at your last notch, straight down, straight up. So you've got something that looks like that. It looks like a little sailor's hat, doesn't it? Now you're going to need to score on all these score lines. So then you have something that looks like this. There's your spigot already started. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put some score tape right down through here, or adhesive of your choice. My choice is score tape. So you're just going to put it on one of your little flaps from the bottom up to about that far away from the top. You're not going to run it all the way to the end because some of this is going to be cut off. Okay, fold that over. Then you're going to bring this around and you're going to put it together right at your score line, right at that first score line right there, just like that. Just going to make a little cone looking thing out of it. Then you're left with this. Looks like you've got a little fishtail here, so what we're going to do is we're going to cut those off. And then you're going to cut up on all these score lines right to that first little score mark that you made. So just go around and cut up on all those. What this is going to do is going to make it where you can put this together at the bottom, like, you know, you can fold it over and put it together like that. So you've got a solid base to put it up against your teapot. You're looking at a little flat bottom like that. So what we're going to do, and I need to trim this one off at an angle. I'll shape this up a little bit more because you want this bottom flat so that it will lay flat up against your teapot. Alright, now you're going to, this one right here, you're going to angle that off. And I know this is fiddly, guys. It's just, I don't know of another way to make this, and I don't have time to try to research it. So this little part is a little bit fiddly, but you can get it done. If I can get it done, anybody can. Alright, so what I'm going to do, and you can use score tape here, I'm just going to use some of my liquid glue and glue these parts together. I put liquid glue on that side, and then I'm just going to fold these over, and I'm just going to kind of shape my spigot, a little spout. I'm sorry, I keep calling it a spigot. That's what we call it here in the South. I'm going to shape it a little bit. Alright, there we go. Now they're glued. And now you're just going to take this little flap and push it down on there. And don't worry about how this bottom looks. It's going to look kind of ragged when you get through with it. And that's fine. It's not going to be seen. It's going to be right up against your teapot, so nobody is going to see it. That's why I've just kind of been looking at the outside to make sure that the outside looks okay. And we should be good. Okay, that is glued together. Now what we're going to do, this is going to be the top of your little spout, and this is the bottom. So I'm going to put that little cut, this little cut in the top part. So I'm just going to take my scissors and go down at an angle and do just a little cut about like that. And then I'm going to cut that bottom off just at a square. So I have my little spout there. And that is all you do to your little spout. And it is ready to go on just like that. But we're not going to put the spout on until we do the lid. So I will come back and get the lid done for you in just a little while.